our next value is holiness. Now, holiness means something so special and perfect that we can't help but love it and serve it and tell it how wonderful it is. And God is holy. He's the only thing that is holy. He can't help but be holy. That is who he is. He is set apart. He is perfect. He can't be put in a separate category because he's bigger and greater than anyone or anything. And everything about him is perfect. There is no bad in him at all. A little bit like this jewel. Now, this jewel is precious, and that's how God sees each one of us. He loves us like a precious jewel, but also he sees us as a reflection of his character and his love and his glory into the world. And so when we look at this jewel, we know that's what God thinks of us, but it's also what he calls us to be as well. Set apart and perfect and holy for him. Now, of course, it's impossible to be perfect because we're not like God. And we make wrong choices, we do wrong things, and that's part of who we are, isn't it? Have a look at this next picture. All of those things there have a purpose, don't they? And that is to make something clean. And when we talk about holiness, what that means is that because Jesus died for us, we have been made clean. We don't need all of those things in that picture. We just need Jesus. And because he's forgiven us, because we've said sorry for the things that we've done wrong and we've chosen to follow him, we are now pure and set apart, just like this jewel that we talked about earlier, for a purpose, to serve him. Just like all those cleaning things have a purpose, we have a purpose as well, and that is to reflect God's glory into the world to serve him. We think about it like this: God is love. We know that God is love, and we can trust that because of his holiness. And he sent his son Jesus to save us from all the things that aren't holy, from the things that we do wrong, what we call our sins. And God calls us to carry our cross daily and to follow him. And that means he calls us to reflect his holiness into the world. A bit like this mirror. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see myself reflected, but the light you can see is reflected, can't you, back on my face. So when we follow God, then we reflect his glory, his holiness onto us. And so we become set apart. We're a reflection of God's goodness and righteousness in the world. It means that we look slightly different to the rest of the world because we're imitating God. We're reflecting his glory. Now, for us to be holy, it means that we are like God in our behaviour, in actions. It's how we live our lives. It matters what we say, it matters what we do, because we're an example of God around us. We live set apart. Now, obviously, we can't be as perfect as God because we're not God. God is above all things, and we are below him in that. But what we can do, like we said about the mirror, is reflect and pick up on the holiness of God. So, for example, imagine that you are this piece of blue tack, and then here we have a newspaper. And what we're going to do is, just like when I press the blue tack onto the paper, what happens? Can you see? It picks up the imprint, doesn't it? It picks up the imprint that is on the newspaper. And so just like that, we can, as Christians, as followers of Jesus, we can pick up the holiness of God. We have the imprint of his holiness on us. And it's not perfect and it's a little bit smudged, but you can recognise it as coming from the original. And that's what it means to be holy and to follow Jesus.